Um, I'm Michelle Reed. As Ashley said, I coach at Sacred Heart University. I coached for over 15 years at several different levels and places. I started as a player. Again, I was one of those ones that didn't find it until college. Man, it pisses me off. I wish I had it in high school. I would have been all over that. But I started at Eastern Illinois. I am from Illinois. Do not say anything about fan. So I started there and as a club team, and then it went varsity while I was there. And then I helped coach for 3 years. Then I needed to make money, so I left. Went into Division I sports as an academic coordinator. Then I needed to make more money, so I became a police officer and a paramedic. And then rugby just kept calling me back, and I left my very stable pension and went back to rugby for $10,000, and then made it work. So now I'm full time. So that's kind of just some of my credentials and what I've done. I was an assistant AD at Quinnipiac University for a little bit. So I've seen a lot of the levels. So I wanted to make sure that when we go this, I can be very intense about coaching philosophy and team culture. I want to try to make sure that if you don't think it's relating to you, let me know. Like, let's just go back and forth. I'm not the know-all, be-all of anything, and I'm very much open to suggestions, questions as we go along. The other thing I like to say, I humanize myself. I teach too, in all the places that I've ever coached. I've taught college classes, and the one thing I learned about 10 years ago from my mother was I would look at a word and I could say it, and then all of a sudden I couldn't say it, and I didn't understand why I could not pronounce that word anymore. And I was talking to my mom about 10 years ago. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I do talk in front of everyone. I can say this word, and the next thing she goes, well, you were in that experimental class. I was like, what? She's like, first and second grade, they weren't teaching phonics anymore. They were just telling you what the word was. I was like, so you're telling me I never learned phonics? She's like, yep. I was like, got it. That would have been good to know, like, maybe when I was 12 and not 30-something, but so that does happen to me sometimes, and I'm not embarrassed by it. It just does. So if I'm stumbling, say the word, and then I can say it. So Ashley talked about Bo. I've worked with athlete assessments, and I know you're going to hear that a lot. I've worked with them for about 12 years now. They're a fantastic company. He has grown exponentially over the last 10 years. He is now working with professional rugby teams, professional NBA teams, businesses. He is fantastic. He will do sessions with my team. Me and Sal will say something over and over and over, and then Bo says it, and the team's like, whoa, yes! I'm like, I just told you that for the last 2 years, but it's someone else saying it in a different way. Bo's great. So a lot of the stuff, my philosophy has changed over the years, but Bo really helped me start to define and really get involved in why I needed to have a philosophy that was written down, and it was more detailed than what I was thinking in my head. So it is a set of values, governing principles, and beliefs which determine why you do what you do and how you behave in the context of your coaching role. Okay? Why you do what you do and why you behave when you coach, or how you behave when you coach. Every coach has a coaching philosophy. You may not have it written down. Hopefully by the end of the weekend you'll have it written down. A lot of times it's in different forms. It's in your head. For me, when I was younger, it was in my head. It was always, I thought I had it. And then you start to realize you really need to write down, you need to put it in front of yourself, you need to evolve it, it's a live document. So the studies show that the level of your coaching philosophy depends on your level of coaching, like your experience. So the older we get, the better that coaching philosophy becomes. A lot of times as coaches, we start off, we just need numbers, a safe place, and fun, right? And we're not really thinking about the coaching philosophy. What is it built around? The knowledge you've accumulated. So that's why I think it gets so much more in detail and concrete as you get older. Your values. You're going to hear some of the stuff that if you were in Salty's presentation, some of these things are going to overlap, okay? It's about your values. I have strong values, and they're in my philosophy, and every time I coach, they come out. And I can make decisions better with my values, that I know them, and they're defined. Your attitude. Most of the time I'm positive. Most of the time. Sometimes I'm frustrated. I think the one time this season that my attitude was shit, the team called me out on it. Big time. Okay? So your attitude, you'll see that in your philosophy. Your experiences. If I were to go to a practice, if someone I didn't know, I could watch that practice and most likely find some of the values and that philosophy of that coach and the way they were interacting with their team. Your philosophy highlights the values and behaviors you most wish to impart on your athletes. That's kind of pretty big. That's a big statement. Like, they're watching us. So the way we behave and what we do, they're taking that all in. So you want to make sure that it's what lines up with who you are. Okay? These pictures are my team. I was pretty impressed with the photo. The photographer came to the game, so we're like, hey, I'm going to show them off. All right? And she's actually from Wisconsin. She's one of my best players. Another one from Wisconsin. So why is it important? Clarity about who you are and what you want. If you don't know who you are, how are you coaching? Really, like, how are you imparting all your information or trying to develop someone or help them grow if you don't know who you are and what's important to you? Decisions and actions, what actions to take are easier when you have clarity. If I know my value and a situation comes up and my philosophy is this is how I'm going to make a decision. This is how I'm going to behave. You become predictable and consistent in your approach. This is huge for nowadays for student athletes, for students. If you can be predictable and consistent, you're going to start to build trust. And that goes down to, this provides a clear and consistent message to your athletes. They want to be able to say, for the most part, maybe 85%, if this happens, coach is going to react this way. It creates a safe environment for them. It's not unstable. They might have that instability somewhere else, so we need to make it stable when they're with us. And this is what I said, clarity and consistency leads to respect, trust in your athletes. I'm learning this more and more as I continue to coach, as my programs have grown and I've become a little bit more elite athletes coming. Having it down and having it more clear has been huge because they want it. They will come to my office and be like, what do you think about this? What's your philosophy on this? What's this? So we really began as a program to build an online document that allows them to go and see some of those things that they ask from us, and that is very clear and right in front of their face. So how do we develop our coaching philosophy? What's important to you? Your non-negotiables. As a coach, if something happens, what is non-negotiable? For me, respect people first. I don't care who you are, I don't care what happened, we respect each other. I don't care if you don't like that person, you don't have to be best friends, we respect each other. Integrity. I need to know that you're going to do the right thing when no one's looking. All right? Another slide, I go past. Learn from your own experiences. So you're learning from, like, how was it when you were an athlete? How was it when you were playing? A lot of how we shape our philosophy is from how we were treated as an athlete, what our favorite coach was, who our favorite coach was, who our least favorite coach was. And sometimes it's easier to talk about who our least favorite coach was because of the feelings we got, how we felt with that coach, what they made us do. Then you're going to develop your coaching philosophy, the behavior you want to exhibit, how you conduct yourself, and how it impacts your athlete. So there's questions that I'm going to, on one of these slides, that I'm going to have you to answer. And that's going to help mold into, how can I get this on a piece of paper, have it written out, and have more of a defined philosophy so that when I go into my coaching environment, I know what it is, and that can develop my team culture. Keep it visible and involving. You need it in front of you. You need it in front of you, okay? Your team should see it, your coaching staff should see it, you should see it. So when we talk about values, and I talk about people first, this is one of my student athletes who is a dancer. She's on the dance team. I am not a dancer. I like to think after a couple drinks I am, but I am not a dancer. And I feel like I need her to know that I care about her outside of rugby. So she had a performance. I went to it. This was after her performance. It was awesome, hip hop. I cannot move that way, so it's fun to watch someone to move that way. But she knows I care for her. My other player, she was in the chorus line. I went and saw that. It's just giving a little bit of my time so that she knows that it's not just about rugby for her. So I want you to think about what are your non-negotiables, what you will not compromise, and just get in groups like we had with Ashley, because I really hate going to a conference where it's me just a talking head. Like, I think we need to be able to connect with each other. We need to learn from each other. We get ideas from each other. So I want to be able to do that here. So if we just talk about what are your values, name a few of them, and then maybe start to break it down. Well, what are the ones? What are the 3 that I can say I can't negotiate on? And then we'll talk a little bit after, see if anyone's willing to talk about what those values might be. Cool? All right, so let's go ahead and just start talking. You write them down first if you want, and then talk to each other about what your values might be.
I like the respect one a lot, because we think that as one of your programs. I've always had communication too between yourself and the coaches and players. I think that's probably
being clear about what you want, what
individual.
I was saying being clear. We were saying respect.
Not only being clear about what you're abrasive
Okay. Either self-clarity and so it's not accountability, it's the ability to be accountable. I will say, because
you're doing that.
really important. And then there's shared institutional accountability. Because conversation because the player should have
full-time jobs.
Your own best.
Should be
right.
We have to use a person both ways.
I came up with
Players, class, coach, message players, about everything, information, anything they need to know. So it helps study tables, and make focus groups for those players in the same classes. Oh, that was
Yeah, I mean, because I work with such young kids, right? It's a positive influence that they really and then get down on each other if they make mistakes, and that's okay.
the thing honestly too is that not saying that you're more than you are, always people that you're coaching are all in your thoughts, really much as what they are
respect for your teammates, for the referee, you don't have to call.
it's basically not like it's making the point of being respectful. How do you want to be respectful of yourself? Do you want to be an answer doctor? Do you want to get to a public dunk tackle? Probably not. Play how you want to play the game.
When are those going to play a game that you'd celebrate?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Maybe another minute, we'll wrap it up.
Girls were going to, they always like to that kind of includes that girl, so I totally don't wait for somebody else to tell you that be a leader with yourself and see what you can bring to somebody else's, perspective with plays, you don't just have to be like that amazing to be that leader, to be that someone who's just not a great player, but still be leader on the team because you're showing other people, what the team is and like how everybody can be better themselves.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the leader. It's all my fault.
Three really good ones.
Yeah.
Especially as a coach.
all right, bring it back up.
Scream at the ref.
So one of my goals, like from this presentation, is that you find maybe some nugget that you could take with you, and that you give me a nugget that I can take with me. You know, some golden nugget that I can say that is going to be awesome and use that at practice. So but when we're looking at the philosophy or your philosophy, what are some values that, if you want to share, that you're like, yeah, non-negotiable for me?
I think the one thing that Coach Miller and we both agreed on right off the bat was we want to create a safe space community for our teams. We're both in the unique sense of starting from the ground up. So we started from no club program, nobody on campus, and it's like, well, how do we create success? And so we both have the same mindset of we want to make sure that the foundation is strong and there's no cracks in that foundation. So it goes back to just setting that kind of positive culture, and making sure that people feel comfortable and welcomed in whatever environment it's about to be.
And being unwavering on that foundation, because that foundation can take a while, I know, because I've had a student across from me like wanting to fight me, and I'm like, yeah, this is not gonna change. Like, you can sit down. Like, this is the philosophy, this is our value. So, and having to be stern and keep those foundations so that you know you're gonna grow it. Yep, what else?
We talked a lot about respect, you know, so not only having like respect for yourself and like what you're bringing to the table, but also, you know, instilling that in your players, because that's essentially like what rugby's founded on, you know, is that respect in that aspect.
100%. I'm all about respect. Like, we need to say hi to each other. Like, we need to acknowledge each other. Coaches need to acknowledge their players. Players need to acknowledge each other. Like, there just needs to be that first level of respect. And then, like you said, the respect yourself, respect the team, the program, your value, the coach. A lot that goes in there. What else? Anything?
We just mentioned perseverance, just because, I mean, you know, we've had a number of seasons where, you know, one of our, you know, quote unquote key players goes down with an injury. You know, that can kind of destroy the motivation some guys have. You know, they might think a season's in the gutter type of thing, but, you know, just being willing to, you know, just get up and come back, you know, the next day and just keep it going. You know, that's something that we think is very, very important.
Yeah. It's huge. I will relate things to my experience because that's what I have. But we were playing Dartmouth this year, and our kicker, fullback, again from Wisconsin.
There's a theme.
There's a thing. She is phenomenal, and they were playing ping pong. Like, it was just, it was a kicking game, and we were winning. And I was like, I'm beating Dartmouth. Like, this is awesome. And then she went down 39th minute on an ankle sprain, like bad high ankle sprain. And the team, I was like, okay, our fullback that we're setting in is not going to be as good. How is the team going to respond? Now, we lost, but they came in hard, and they did not, like, I'm friends with Dartmouth coaches, and they were like, wow, we weren't expecting that. So, like, having that person, that, you know, they relied on her a lot, so we were really concerned on how they were going to, so having those players that can get through and just keep going. It's hard these days. Like you were saying, just give up, right? You're like, I don't get that, that's not me. But anyway. Was there something over there?
Yeah, we were just talking about like accountability, and I mean, obviously you and I have like a weird relationship with that word, so we kind of just evolved and continued to discuss it. So it kind of turned more into like self-awareness, and I think if you have that, then that can build and like lead into accountability. Because if I'm aware of what I'm performing and like what I'm bringing to the team, then I'm going to be aware of what I'm not as well, and I think that's a really important part of it.
Yeah, we have a lot of people who like to hold everyone else accountable, but not themselves. So it's classic. Let's have a little self-awareness. So like step 2 is learning from your experiences. So what do you do in another breakout real quick? But first, like many coaches, I said, they model their behaviors off of coaches they admired and inspired them. Like when I first started looking at my philosophy, I was like, you know what, that's right. My soccer coach when I was in first grade, I loved her. Right? But then maybe this coach, I'm not saying name, I did not like her at all, right? So I based that for me, like that person made me feel insignificant. There's this one in high school, like, I'm not gonna go into it. like it brings up feelings, and I'm like, I'm not going to be like that impersonal coach who just makes me feel like shit. So that's why I'm very people oriented. Coaches will, like I said, will also base off of the opposite than what of the bad coach that you had. So what I really want us to do is answer these questions for your your favorite and your least favorite coach. Okay? You don't have to answer all of them because these would take time to build these, but these are questions that can help us develop what that defining philosophy will be. Describe what made them your favorite and least favorite coach. What behavior did they consistently display? How did they make you feel? So important. What do you believe that were some of their most important values? Was it relationships? Was it winning? Was it winning at all costs? What lessons did you learn from this coach? So I'm sure that we all have some stories that we can talk with each other about, and that will also bring out like you realizing, oh, I do that, and maybe this is part of the reason that I do. So yeah, let's take a few minutes and do that real quick. Any questions before we break up? This is a small group, but I love it. Okay, let's do it again.
I think anyone who's good makes you feel like less than, you know what I mean? Or like talk about you. I think that's always like the worst feeling, or making you feel like doing something. At least for my first so you guys do as far as like the piece.
So
I don't remember what course that I had, but I really just like it was just very stuck in our ways, you know what I mean? And like it was just more like condescending and like, this is not why we're doing this, but it wasn't like adaptable, and then so it doesn't make it for that you feel like you can move forward as a team, or in a ways and have to do the same thing over and over and over again. How do you change? What do you guys feel about this?
I have one that always kind of like really didn't tell you what to do, just kind of like led you there, right? And I don't have a really good explanation as to how he did it, right? Which is probably what made him a pretty good coach, but he just was able to kind of like make suggestions and do things, right? When it's like do this, work harder, all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, yeah, and just make you find your own way and just figure it out.
Players not having an idea of what to do, not what to expect.
Wasn't there. I
Some of those
time where I didn't
didn't have a lot of coaches also self-taught. Winning the second worst is take what you want. Something you don't want, you make sure you never do it.
I had a basketball coach in high school that literally went through a case of boards, clipboards. Over the one time, I don't know how he did this. He one time stabbed a marker through the clipboard at halftime. He was so pissed off. The trainer was marking. He's like, "Hey, there's right here." And he stabbed it through the clipboard. We're like, okay, still lost.
I remember when I was like, and oh yeah, but I think that's like a really interesting
Coaching people also self-control and gives a red brain. Losing, screwing.
Yeah, and I don't know what the players get. Like, as a referee, I've had a few games like that where like the coach was just yelling at their players, and I'm like, I can't barely hear you anyways, and like the game is unraveling right now. Like you can't like you can reposition a player here and there, something like that.
30 seconds. Sorry.
90 seconds.
Okay, like things that bring like the crowd or things that like it's like kind of how you don't even need to say as much because you're giving the players that point. So then you can take a step back as a coach and then just kind of like self-reflect, see what's going on, and then just taking key points and then like let them do let them figure out how they're gonna implement that and move forward.
And then he like
Yeah.
And also like that, like the players also need you to be responsible for the sidelines and like know like what are the subs that are already keeping an eye out for players that are and like if you like raise your hand and like I need out, the coach has the ready. He's like, all right, come out, or like no, stay a little bit more, or can you stay a little bit more, like things like that.
And it's confirmed.
You need your coach to be like focused on the sideline as well, and like that you can focus on.
Yeah, if someone gets hurt or like that, they're not so focused on something that is they're able to be moving on the field, make sure. And also like breathing.
All right. Wrap it up again. Was there anything, like any aha moments answering these questions or any?
But we have the same people as our research coaches, which we won't say who they are. But it was down to like, this person, I felt like they didn't feel like I could do it. And I had to prove to them that I could do it versus the coaches who I loved. I felt like they believed in me and were shepherding me upwards.
Yeah.
In this kind of growth development.
Yeah, building that self-belief in a student or an athlete other than,
Pushing.
yes.
So the last one, why we needed like 5 more minutes, not 60 or 30 more seconds. So I talked about like I'll say one of my favorite coaches, but communicating value and making sure that my effort was validated and was seen. Because Saul and I were talking and I was like, I felt a particular way about my role on the team, and then to hear it come directly from him made like the biggest difference in the world. So that was one thing that I thought, and I've kind of emulated that or tried to emulate that as a coach as well, is communicating, players' value, but also making sure that their effort feels seen as well, right? Because that's all that we want, right? We want coaches to notice us for good things.
Good stuff. Anyone else? These are just good reflection questions as you're going through and building that process of like I said, defining. This is my fullback I was talking about. So this is another breakout, but these are really good questions, and you're not going to answer them all because we just don't have time. But these are questions that you can, again, as you're sitting back and trying to make sure that you're building the philosophy that you want in the right way. These questions are what are going to help you. You think of everything that you talked about before. What are the 5 most important behaviors you want to consistently do as a coach? We got to really look at our behavior because that's what we're, at practice, we're behaving in front of our team. What are the 5 that you want to avoid? And then describe how you aim to conduct yourself as a coach. Describe what impact your behavior will have on your athletes, how they feel, what they will think, what they will act, just like we talked about how coaches made you feel. Describe the results your behavior will create. What will they achieve? What will they learn from your behavior? And then define what elements of success are for you. It's so important that your team understands what success is for you. And that has to come across to them so they understand what you're trying to build and what matters to you. So just take a couple minutes again. I hope you don't mind breaking up. I think it's great to talk to each other and answer whatever question you want on here. But these are something that would later down the road, as we continue to build, these are the questions I think are most important in building that. Any questions on that?
Where's she from? The picture.
That's Wisconsin. That was
Just want to make sure.
Catholic form. You gotta do it on purpose.
Such good work.
And where you are in
The last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
versus.
Yeah.
It's hard to get out of the red loss.
So I'm gonna stop.
Right. Yeah. Well,
His face is a lot. I love mine either on the I know, yeah. That's something I would do. So I try to do whatever I can.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think I coach middle schoolers, and like our program is so new. Like we've literally been doing it for like 2-3 years. You know, and they only had like last year they only had 3 teams they could play against. The first year they didn't have any. You know, and now this year they're at 5 teams. I think the biggest thing for us is like that growth that you see in players from the beginning to the end. Like you know, like they came out really strong, like all the first year we have, you know, like really excited, but then other players came back to team us and just them from the next time they didn't win as many. But at the end, like if you can see the development and that change within players, like that's the biggest like success.
They walk up the field with a smile on their face and they come to practice the next week to win.
But that doesn't mean we just start screaming at each other. So like really being able to
I think the biggest like thing for behaviors to like as a coach for me, I know that environment is like and then so my thing is that people can read my things so easily. You know, like I show all of my emotions on my face. I think for me, I'm like trying to start reading is like, you know, getting that like remark off my face rather than like obviously saying something that might not be what they're doing.
You know, what are we doing and am I avoiding it?
I try to not be my basketball coach. That's Stan Parker. No, but everybody has a bad practice, right? You know, so it's like every now and then you use it, right? The second you lose it, you lose your kids. It never fails.
You know, one thing in their head now forever. Yeah. And like if there's 5 good things that you did, they give them one bad thing.
Yeah, but it comes down to like being open. Like you go back to next practice and you're like, I lost it. That was cool. That's on me, and that's on me. That's not how. That's not how I want to do it.
and then plus it's like also like kind of like
I think that's too, kind of going back to the factor I too. So like, if you example having said to come back and say, look, I messed up. This is not something that I want to show for you guys. Like, I think that's going to impact something more than, you know, just I'm sorry, like,
Yeah, being open is really important. That's the mindset I try to get in when I'm riffing and I get on the pitch. And like, I tell myself, like, I have nothing to hide. Like, I need to be open about my decisions. And, you know, and if I make that call, I have to say, sorry, that's a bad call. Or actually resetting the scrum. And like players really react to that. And also, like, when you're open, then they're open to you. If they have a question, I expect them to ask me. If they don't understand the call, I need them to understand it.
I think that makes like, because you know, I think every team has their favorite rep and they want to like have them certain times, right? So then that makes you like that better rep that they look to you because they have that the quality that you know should be had. Like when they play the way they should, but then they doesn't know that they're going to be called correctly or explain out to them.
I think the other one's important is being flexible and adaptable. So when things aren't going well, you know, switch gears, right? So it's like, I work with primarily like 9 to 10-year-olds, right? So it's like when you start to lose them, it's like, okay, this isn't going well. Plan B, right? Plan B is not going well. Plan C. Plan C is not going well. We're playing sharks and minnows for the next 10 years. Whatever gets us stuff. Yeah, but I'm sure it's like that with, you know, kids too, right? Where drills not going well. Let's go on to the next thing. We'll come back to this later.
I think that's also like really right? And like really important that
I'll do
yeah,
it.
you spin forwards and that's it.
It's like our practice is like 6 guys show up.
But like, I think that's really,
Yeah, the adaptability and is really a key thing too. Yeah, because like if they're doing a drill, right, and then like they're getting it, but they're not really getting it. You know, changing like one thing, you know, just really helps like that direction of that learning. So.
Adaptability and like you were saying, like continuous growth, like it's really such we have to react to that, encourage it and recognize it.
You know, because like you start getting excited because they're like growing, you know, that just makes them want to do more, you know. So
I always tell them.
All right.
yeah.
So we talk a lot about our athletes need to be self-aware and they need to self-reflect. We do too, as coaches. And these are good questions to self-reflect on. Not only build your philosophy, but am I doing these things that I say I want to do as a coach? A good way to do that is one day just mic yourself up, record yourself at a practice, at a game, and then listen to it. How do you sound? Are you saying things in a certain tone that you don't like? Like, but mic yourself up. Just put, your iPhone, whatever it is, put it in your ear and just for the whole practice. And then you really get to see and hear yourself, because sometimes how we see ourselves and hear ourselves is completely different than other people. So this is not only just philosophy stuff, but self-reflecting on how we are as coaches and what our students are hearing and seeing from us. So the next thing, we're gonna write it out. Like, let's bust through this, see if you can get a couple things down on paper. This is my current philosophy, coaching philosophy, because it does evolve and change. I aim to build and provide opportunities for girls and women at the elite level of rugby. Within these opportunities, I will aim to create and cultivate a physically and emotionally safe environment for the athletes to express themselves and develop by allowing failure, encouraging growth and collaboration, and being an athlete-centered coach. Okay, so that's my philosophy that, has been evolving. You can see the athlete-centered coach, the people-oriented, a safe environment for them to show their emotions, a safe environment for them to fail. They need to be able to fail with you, because they can't fail in a lot of other areas in life. They need to be able to fail with you. And that sometimes is hard, because you can tell them over and over, it's fine. I mean, we have one kid that was like, you can't, I'm like, what do you mean you felt you had to be perfect? We've told you at practice over and over, okay, do it again, Sometimes they just don't get it, but they have to be, safe to fail. Here's some other examples. They don't have to, your philosophy doesn't have to be long. It could be written out, it could be a paragraph, it could be bullet points, it could be little word clouds, whatever form that you feel is best for you and your personality. But these are some other coaching philosophies. So I'm gonna give you a few minutes to kind of write down a couple sentences or words that you think center around what you think your philosophy is, and you can take a look at these if you want examples as well. Any questions about my philosophy or?
Just copy and paste and straight to me.
hey, as coaches, we always copy and steal stuff. Like, that is not all original, okay? But
Playing devil's advocate, what would someone say, or what would you say to someone that, would highlight the fact that there's nothing about winning rugby games in that?
I would say if you provide that kind of environment, you will win. You can't focus on winning. For me, you have to understand that you have to focus on development and improvement, but I've realized that if I focus only on winning, my team plays worse. And it is out of my control. Let me control the things I can, and providing them a safe environment, providing them a place where they can express who they are and not be judged by it. They can be included, have inclusion. Winning, what are my successes, right? My successes are seeing them develop and become the person they are intended to be without having any judgment. So winning comes along with that when you provide that space. For me. Thanks, Al.
Michelle, how much does your current team have input and influence on your philosophy? Is it something you talk about every season? something that evolves with them?
It does evolve with who you have, like, you know, what does your class coming in look like? You want your foundation, like for me, people first is never gonna go away. I'm gonna always try to provide emotionally safe because I'm an emotional person too, and I know I need to have that. But some other things might change with that depending on who you have coming in and maybe what your coaching staff is and what is your goal. Like maybe someone at a higher level than me might really have winning into there. So like for me, that might be my philosophy, but my mission says I want to become a dominant team in the NCAA. So like my philosophy can be different to what my mission is, my goal is. That is definitely. So yeah, this is just a chat time to write down a couple sentences. If you have any thoughts or if you don't have to, just give me time.
I would say, in terms of, so just like look at your,
If you want to see mine.
well, no, I'm just looking at the overview, right? So like, I need to build power, absolute power, police or something. Because right? Like, basic or what have you.
I love it.
If that's just what it is,
No, I love it.
you leave space for question, you leave space for reflection, and you're supposed to keep something.
I'm tired.
What's that?
Like,
Yes.
I won't do
I think it like 9 minutes.
All right, so I'm running out of time. I hope it's giving you a foundation. I hope it's giving you a little bit of reflection or foundation that you can take off after this weekend and start to really build that. Like I said, you got to make sure that it's visible and it's evolving. So make it in your office, in your mirror, like wherever you put goals, like have it in front of you so you know, and it keeps you centered and it keeps you self-aware of how you're behaving as a coach. But as you go into your, after you develop your philosophy, you want to go into your team culture because your team culture comes from your philosophy, right? What are your values? So just like your philosophy, you need to be consistent and clear on your team culture. You have to, like we talked about, that foundation, it has to be set and it's unwavering. Use your coaching philosophy and your values to build and cultivate that team culture. You want to take your non-negotiable and you can make them maybe pillars of your program. They could be, for me, like people first. There's a lot of things under people first that I can use. I mean, I have lists of words and phrases and everything I use. But people first is that pillar and then stuff below it. Explain and define these pillars. So you can put a word out there. You will not realize how many kids don't know what you mean. They don't know what you mean when you say it. So you have to explain it. You have to make sure there's no confusion of what that pillar is or what your value is and what that means to you and what it means to them on the team. Create team rituals, traditions, share your roots. We're going to go over some of this stuff. Like these are going to help your team culture. Make it feel inclusive and exclusive. If you know what I mean, right? I love diversity on my team, but if it's not inclusive, it doesn't matter, right? So I bring that inclusivity. Yeah, I guess that sounds right. And at the same time, I'm going to make it seem exclusive so that they're proud to be a part of it and they want to be a part of it. Okay? I'm not going to say, I would say I've worked a lot to build team culture, but it's just like your philosophy, it changes every year. And you have to make sure that it doesn't change, but you have to build it every year and you have to talk about it every week. So at the moment, these are my 3 current pillars that I'm using: people first, integrity, and beat yesterday. Because at my level, you can work hard, that's fine, but if you're not competing with yourself, you're not competing with your teammates to be better, you're just working hard. All right? So like we have a competitive side, and we want to make sure that you're also competing at the same time that you're raising each other up. It's not like you're trying to, it shouldn't be this, for me, it's trying to create that environment where it's competitive, but it's also you're my teammate, and if you're winning, I'm winning. Okay. Clarity and consistency. This is huge. I've mentioned it before. It is so huge for these kids right now. Everything you do should be clear and consistent. Like I said, it builds trust with consistency. Clarity gives a player a sense of stability. So like for me, I'll give you an example on the next page. When I told you I provide a list, this is what it is for technical skills, this is what I expect for tactical skills, this is what each position should be. And these are the non-negotiables. And we give that out at the beginning of the season. They have it in an electronic document. So if I'm a fly half, I can go back and say, okay, what is she looking for? And what is it I'm not doing or can do? Very clear. I don't have to talk about it, it's right there. And they can see what they're not doing. Define your buzzwords. I just said they don't know what you're talking about. So we talk a lot, people talk about being trustworthy. You can be trustworthy, but what about trustwilling? Because I find that's the hardest thing. And for us, that's relying on each other. They feel, we talk about that trust, you need to be trustwilling. You have to give your teammate a chance to build the trust, right? So you gotta be trustwilling. Because sometimes we really hold that close as athletes, and like not passing the ball, I don't trust that you're gonna catch. You've gotta give that person opportunity, and you gotta rely on them at some point and build that connection. You gotta be able to, like I said, I have a glossary that I work on so that they understand the words that we're talking about. So these are just a quick example of, when I talk about like non-negotiable core skills, catching, what does it mean? Like we get into what does that mean? So they understand, we break it down. So that there's no question, because I find that if you do that, the questions are less. There's still plenty of them, yes. And if you give it expectations, then it just makes it easier for them. Athlete-centered.
I have a question before you move on from that. So, I mean, clearly, like you're from a college that's been around for a long time, and you guys have been able to establish these things. So, how do you kind of do this for teams that are just starting out, or small college, or like stuff like that? Because trying to be consistent when your team isn't consistent is really difficult. So.
Yeah, I would say so. You would start with different things now. So it'd be like, I need you to show up. I need you to try to pass. Like, it's smaller things than just the technical side of things. When we're doing this, like, you could even be just like, I need you to pay attention to me in the huddle. You know what I mean? Like, starting with small stuff. I'm just trying to think. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, kind of on that same note, since building new programs and everything like that, we've kind of dipped our feet in this a little bit. One of the things that helped us with clarity of expectations and really developing a philosophy was asking the players to define what success meant to them. Because based on what they say will dictate what you need to focus on and what they're going to latch on to. And as soon as you start to do that, you start to see more consistent numbers and more total buy-in, which will then just be better for longevity.
I agree with that, because we do meet with them, and talk to them about it. We used a Google document at one point live. But I would say just breaking down stuff, like the small things you want to see, and making those clear. Show up on time, or show up 10 minutes before if you need work on practice, like on passing. Like, I don't, figuring out what you won't need at that level. Does that make sense?
Yep.
You got to create emotional safe space. I'm telling you now. Oh, sorry.
So, you mentioned buzzwords. So do you use that as an opportunity for the older kids to mentor the young kids?
Yes.
Because you have the English language and then you have rugby.
Yes.
Right? So I go to my fly half, all depending what gender I'm coaching.
Yeah.
And like when I coach boys, I would go to my fly half, I would say, see how brave he is.
Yeah.
And everyone knew what that meant. That means we're going to kick it high to the full back, and we're going to hit him when he has the ball or not. We're going to see how brave he is. So, do you use that? And then, like, if a young one doesn't know what you're saying, you can go up to an old one and say, that's your job. It's your job to tell that one what's going on. And that way you kind of foster mentorship that way.
Yeah, so we actually have a system of mentor-mentees. So at the beginning of the year, a mentee gets 2 to 3 mentors. And They have to do lunch together or a meal together a week. They have to go to community service. They have to do stuff together, get to know each other, and that's their job to teach them the standards of our team.
Yeah.
But also at practice, we will take the time to be like, I need you to go remind them of this or go teach them that, so that they're talking to and that we're not always talking. But yeah, giving them the upperclassmen the chance to. It's happening a lot right now. I'm not gonna lie. Our upperclassmen are really trying to get the standards. Our freshman incoming class had some eyes open really wide when they realized what was happening and where they had come to school. And our upperclassmen were really trying to mentor them in a way to be like, this is what it is. You need to be early, on time, 15 minutes early. And that's not even me. That's my team saying that. So we really try to use that for them.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, are you starting a club team?
My club team's only been around for a couple of years, so this year is actually the first time we actually had a fall season.
From a
for
guy
G3,
that's
so.
come from experience. So I went from a successful University of Texas team to a complete crap Marquette team when I transferred. And so once I became captain and eventually as coach, be fair in your selections.
Yeah.
Just be fair. Select who comes to practice, and you may take it on the chin a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, so I
Yeah,
took Marquette over in Marquette over in spring of '94, but fall of '96 we won Wisconsin. So just be fair and they'll come.
Yeah, we had the issue where, you don't have the consistency with the players, but because we need numbers, well, come game day, somebody that hasn't showed up for 2 months clearly gets game time because we need the players. So that's really, that's hard as a coach and a player to really kind of deal with, so.
And it humanized me a little bit, just to let you know, there was time we had 11 people on the field, like 15. And had to end that game, but it's a struggle at all levels when it came to the numbers, and it's hard to, like you said, for practice, like, you want to play. I remember a conversation I had to tell him, like, yeah, you come to practice, you don't play, that's it, that's what it is, and I'll play now. But like he said, we'll build it up, and it's hard. It is hard. Coaching is hard.
Yes.
Transparency. Sometimes my administration says I'm too transparent. I like to tell my kids what's going on so they understand the background, because they have minds too, and they need to know what's going on. There are a few things I might hold for them, but most of the time they know exactly. Humanize yourself. Have emotions. If you're having a bad day, shit's happening, sometimes it's good for them to understand where you're at. I've cried in front of them. I've left practice because of a death, but they have to see that if I can take care of myself, they can too. Give them your time with boundaries, because sometimes in the office, I'm like, it's been 2 hours, you gotta go. I wanna help you, but I don't have a certificate behind my name. Here's the counselor, let's move on. Yeah. But you gotta give them some time, so they know that they mean more than just a number on the field. Collaborating with your players and give them a sense of ownership. We do that a lot. We have groups like Ashley does. Each week they're responsible for something else, and one of the groups is responsible every week for drills. So each group gets a chance to do everything, right? Social media, locker room duty, setting up practice. But the one thing they get to do is come in with a drill 1 week, and they get to choose what we need to work on, and they get to run it, right? So they learn the skills, and they're learning how to teach it. And then we have one group who gets to do a game. So they choose whatever game we're gonna play that week, and they get to run it. So just giving them some ownership. We also give them ownership by letting them come in and talk strategy, talk plays, talk to us. I may say no, but at least you're having that conversation with me, and you're thinking rugby, and your rugby IQ is getting better. Disc, real quickly. I talked about disc. I might let you go and see this real quick. Disc is a huge thing that we use for building culture. The athlete assessments has a lot of free stuff if you can't afford it. They teach you how to do it without using their survey. But you take this BuzzFeed quiz, and this is for coaches. Take a look at it. There's 4 profiles. I'm an ISC. I can pull a D if I need it. You want to take a look?
There's also a free website for it too. If you just look up free disc test, there's options for that too.
This one is really specific towards athletes and how in your natural state and in your athletic state. And we have every kid and every staff member, our strength and conditioning, us all take this. Everyone knows it. They have access to profiles. It's 45 pages, your profile. Weaknesses, strengths, how you behave under stress, how you want to be communicated to, how not to communicate to you. So when I have the fly half who's an S and a scrum half who's a D, they need this because they need to learn that it's not personal and that a D is all about task-oriented and fast-paced and an S is about relationships, harmony, slower pace. Let's not disrupt things. So they have to learn how to talk to each other and we have to learn how to talk to them. And this has helped us tremendously. I've been working with them for 12 years. It's just really cool thing to look at. So this, like I said, this helps me be athlete-centered. Share your roots. Like, talk about how your club started. Make them feel a part of it. It's important to them to know the beginnings. Make it real and personal. Take pride in it. Talk about legacy. What are they going to leave? What was the legacies that were left? I really believe that inspirational stories and fun stories connect players to the team. They love hearing my stories, appropriate ones, that I can tell. This also can be done through traditions and rituals. I'm trying to speed through this because I spent too much time, but these can be small things that you do with your team. So we do our team does a chant right before kickoff. We also have a coach to player chant. I ask them, what are we? And they backs are stronger, forwards together. I ask, what do we do? And we'll say, start strong, finish strong. And I ask how we play, what do we play with? And they all say heart. Say your heart. And it's just that like pump up, like it's our thing, we do it together. So building those things. A team handshake. I have a couple kids that maybe have a handshake that's personal. Jersey presentation, how do you do that? Player of the week. We have a pioneer, a pretty ugly little stuffed pioneer that they get every week. We social media it, you know. And then camping. This year I did camping on the pitch. Half the team liked it and that team did it. But that's okay. Like half the team like, what? I'm going to Walmart and getting air mattresses. I'm like, but it gives us tradition. We get up, we play, what was it? We play manhunt?
Yeah.
The lights go off, we're playing manhunt. We're all intense. We got to learn how to put them up and work together, how to take them down. So it's just stuff to create. So are there any traditions that are like rituals that your clubs do?
We do a Jersey ceremony Thursday before every game.
I do the same thing as Jersey ceremony, and every week I pick a different song, and I do like announcement style, like the starting lineup: University of New England Nor'easters against the whoever's, and then everybody like high fives each other through the line, and I give a bit about the finishers.
I have like a song that I sing like during some of like our warm-ups, and I know like on the men's team, they're like one of the guys like he kind of has like a little shtick that he does like during the warm-ups too. So
It makes it special, right? It's just something special. Like sometimes you pull out shit that you don't think you're gonna do, and one of the huddles I did the worm. I was like, what the heck does that mean? I'm in the dress and I'm doing the worm.
What just happened?
But you know that just, you did the gritty, what is it called?
I tried.
Yeah, but that they love that, right? That inspires them because you're being human and you're doing, you know, something that's fun. But the rituals, it really keeps them, it's exclusive. It's to your team, okay? That's really it. Is there any, I mean, that's my information if you want to reach out to me at any point. I'm willing to chat, talk. I really hope you take something from this. I've taken stuff already from some of you that I'd like to do on my own. I actually like self-reflection. Is this helpful at all? Was there stuff that you got from it? You don't have to lie.
One thing we do it in the fall and the spring, is we have a bonfire.
Yeah.
You know, we can have a bonfire in Milwaukee, but that's not you people out there north around here. That's where northern Wisconsin starts for me. Anyway, so we have a bonfire, and what we do is in the fall, girls have to say who they run for in their personal life. So,
Yep.
you know, and, you know, for me, it's my kids, blah, 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 right? And then in the spring, they can, you know, they can more of a fine point, who do they run specifically at the school. And it'll be, you find out some very interesting stuff. Now, the key to that is whatever goes on at the bonfire has to stay there. If someone betrays the confidence that was set at the bonfire, that all falls apart.
That brings up one other rule, because I like the betrayal. We have a 24-hour rule. If someone offends you, you have 24 hours to talk about it. Otherwise, it's on you, and bring it up.
If it was that important, you'd bring it up that fast.
Yeah.
We also changed from just having like all of our like social themes like for like after rugby games to also incorporate them like in practices. So like we're not just gonna wear Hawaii shirts like at the end of like this game. Like let's also have like Hawaii night for practice night, or we did like a color things. Like my favorite color is purple, so my socks, my shorts, my shirt, everything was in purple. So like we kind of tried doing that like for practices to make practices a little bit more fun and not so serious.
Yeah. Make it more comfortable. It's like having a couch in your office. When you have a couch in your office, my chief did this to me. He's like, you don't want to have a couch? I'm like, no, because you sit back, you relax, and you say more things. That's what fun does in practice. It opens them up, lets them be able to say more things. Thank you again. I appreciate you being here.